You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's so nice to finally be in this space again. And yeah, I hope everyone had an incredible summer. If you're following, obviously, today, and if you're not, obviously, whenever you're listening, hello and welcome back from the break. If you had a break, obviously. Wow, let me tell you, this summer was not how I expected it to go, but we move, right? That's exactly it. We ebb and flow through every situation and circumstance. And I think, you know, in all of what I do and all of what I am, I share my journey transparently, and life is all about the highs and lows, the ebbs and flows, and it's accepting and understanding that. And equally, when you're in a space of dedicating your life to growth and being the best version of yourself, inevitably there are always going to be roadblocks and setbacks and big tower moments. And for anyone that doesn't know what tower moment is, in the tarot deck, there is a tower card. And basically, whenever the tower card comes up, it basically means that everything's going to crash down. And it's a good thing. It's always about kind of the rebirth card, right? So yeah, I'm just going to get into kind of how my summer was and obviously set us up ready for season 2, which I'm really excited about because I've already recorded some really incredible episodes with different types of people, which is lovely. And that's why I'm so grateful for having this space because, so many people reach out to me and want to come on, which is just, mind blowing. And I'm so grateful for all of that. But let's get back to my summer. So I don't know if anyone else felt it, but Venus was in retrograde throughout the whole of the summer this year, which basically means that when a planet goes retrograde, it's all about our internal world, like how that affects us on an internal basis. Now, retrogrades have a bad stick, I'd say, for things going wrong, but it's always that, what I'm talking about here, that breakthrough before the breakdown before the breakthrough situation. So something has to give, the old things that don't serve you anymore start to feel a bit rocky, because ultimately that's going to crumble from underneath you and there's like a beautiful outcome on the other side of it. But when you're in it, doesn't feel like that. I'm fully aware of that. And that was really my summer to a T. I think I was excited for Leo season because obviously it's my season. And I think because I'm a Leo sun and a Leo rising, and also my Venus is in Leo, boy, did it come for me. And again, I set that intention that I wanted to close out chapter 31, release out everything that no longer serves me, every person, situation, thought, feeling, obstacle that I was carrying with me. I wanted that all to go. And essentially what the universe did was like, okay, sis, we got you. And then just everything started to fall apart. Now, I mean, I'm probably dramatizing that slightly, but equally that is how it felt. And I can acknowledge that and accept that. And this is the thing, right? For me, obviously I've spoken about this along my journey the whole way through, is that I really worked hard the last few years to take my armor off, to take back those layers, a toxic way of pushing through things and forcing. So now I'm in the most vulnerable space I've ever been in my life. There's nothing to protect me. There's no ego. I mean, obviously there is an ego, but there's no like false ego there where it's like pushing through and like validating me by working harder or, having arguments or anything like that. And actually I'd say for at least 10 years, I haven't gone out of my way for an argument anyway. But that seems to be something that people tie me with, which is still, a little bit frustrating, but that's the version of me that they know and not the version of me that I am. So that's their problem, not mine. But yeah, it was just very much that the whole way through, I think end of July was quite, I guess I would say it was, I was tiptoeing into Leo season, let's say. Like, I was ready for it, but I was also dubious in a way, because I was ready for big transformation, and that's what it brought, as I said. So yeah, I think it was a lot of me really refining my boundaries and sticking to them, because obviously in everything I do, as I've said, I practice what I preach. So there's not one element of me that's saying to you, oh, boundaries are so important and I'm letting everyone walk all over me. That's just not the tea with my life. I just don't live like that. It's inauthentic, and everything I am is the raw nitty gritty. And that's why I share the hard things, because it's important for everyone to know that we are humans living a human experience. You know, we're not, I'm not going to pretend that because I'm into spirituality that I'm a guru, because I'm not, you know. And I never want to be deemed as that either. You know, I'm just talking about how overcoming these things give us that wisdom. And you know, what I've put it down to is post-traumatic wisdom, so I'm sharing. You're welcome. So yeah, I just kind of went in, as I said, tiptoeing in, but yeah, it again hit me like a ton of bricks. But also, those bricks, as I was moving through Leo season, although they felt heavy, I was using them as stepping stones. So I think that was a really beautiful space of being in the self-awareness space. You know, I think years ago, when things like that happened to me before, I was very much in that victim mindset of, why is this happening again? Why is this happening to me again? And don't get me wrong, that definitely flared up for me in some degree at some point, because again, I've been working on myself. I've been self-aware. I don't feel like necessarily I deserved all of the things that came my way, but equally, my soul chose this life, right? So, you know, there was something to show me, whether it was a mirror of my own shadow, or to show me that this is how much I've grown. And I think a lot of it was that, to be honest, because there would have been old ways that I would have reacted, and I just didn't react in that way. I just accepted, and I moved through in a very diplomatic space. And I feel, when I could have been angry, I wasn't. I was just aware. And I think that's a really nice space to be in. I think sitting in that seat of your soul and almost like allowing the movie to play out in front of you, instead of trying to do anything in the in between. And don't get me wrong, like, that takes so much discipline, and that's taken years for me to get to that space. And equally, sometimes I go to step forward and I go to put my hand out and I'm like, whoa, let's not do that, you know. And that comes with the development of self, you know. So whilst all of this is going on, you know, I'm feeling shadowy, I'm working through these situations. The working through part was so important to me. Like, every single night I'm doing my unwind, which is you know, I do like a tiny bit of yoga, do my sound bowl, do some meditation, journal, go to sleep. Now, I don't journal every single night, but when I feel called to, or I know I should, that's when I do it. But the meditation is 100% there. And that little bit of movement to just wind down. I also do the Olympic drainage now, which has made a massive difference. I don't know if anyone's into that, but what I realized was my cortisol levels from being in fight or flight my whole life were really affecting, like, my skin, my hormones, and things like that. So I started to do the Olympic drainage, I would say probably maybe June, July time. And that has made a massive impact on kind of like just generally feeling a lot calmer. And also taking apple cider vinegar and all of that. I think I said that in the last episode as I was leaving season 1. So yeah, well-being has definitely been on the forefront, and the self-love element and the self-care element. And I think that was obviously what the Venus retrograde was calling us to do, you know, deepening that even more. And I feel like I'm one of these people that do all the self-love stuff anyway, regardless. That's just part of my makeup. But in everything, you know, if you do something every day, it loses its potency. So it's almost like, how can I reframe that? How can I change that and mold that and do that a bit differently? And that's always a beautiful thing with routine, right? Sometimes routine does get tedious, but it's how can we shift it up? How can we make it more impactful? And I think that's always my, like, I guess because I've got a Capricorn moon, I almost have this element of analytical, like, thought processes that do keep me on track. Because I think, being a double Leo, I could be super crazy and wild, and don't get me wrong, I have moments of that, but generally I feel like maybe it's the wisdom as well. I'm quite calm and thought out and methodological in how I do things. But equally, I am passionate. And when I'm passionate about something, that does take over. But again, there's no right or wrong in any of this. And I think that really has been this journey this summer, has been setting the boundaries and allow myself to feel and feel vulnerable. Like, to be completely honest with you, the boundary thing was really important this summer, and I implemented boundaries. And I think my whole life, as I've said previously, as I never really felt seen, heard, or understood. And in this process of tower moments and hard times, ultimately, I do think the outcome was people do feel, people do see me and feel me and hear me and understand me more, like in my family unit, which has always been like the cause of obviously my trauma from my childhood and stuff, because again, people only see you how they see you from their perspective. So all the growth and transformation that I've done ultimately doesn't mean anything to anyone else apart from me, because they're only going to see me how they want to see me. So if they still view me as this angry, teenager or whatever, then that's on them, right? And I think that's, again, something that I had to really understand and appreciate to be able to forgive. And was something that I was doing this half of the year, really forgiving, understanding, appreciating. And then with that understanding and that clear view, I knew that new boundaries needed to be set. And that's what I was doing this whole summer. But if I'm completely honest, like my birthday, I was looking forward to, because I'm the last birthday of August out of like my family. And it was probably the worst day I've had this year. Worst day I've had this year by far. I was stressed out, overwhelmed, and all of the old wounds that I'd had from my childhood of feeling abandoned and invalidated and neglected all came to the surface on that day, because ultimately the plans didn't go the way they should have done. And I wasn't chosen on the day that was supposed to be for me. And I think that's the hard part for me in this situation, is that, regardless of whatever the situation was, that day should have been about me. And I can take that. And, if you're listening and thinking that's you in your ego, that's okay. You can think that. That's 100% fine. But I do feel like I am someone that goes above and beyond for a lot of people. And this year has been harder for me because, like I said, this whole pathway, even doing the podcast, has been me channeling. It's been me chiseling a new pathway for myself in a new journey, a new adventure. And the old me would have got a wrecking ball out and bulldozed their way through. But now I'm really taking attention to detail, carving out this path. And it's been vulnerable and difficult, and I've taken all the armor off. So when I have had the setbacks and, the gunshots and all of that, it's gone straight through my skin. It's literally knocked me for six, because there's nothing to protect me anymore. This is just bare vulnerable me, and it's been difficult and hard, but so worth it, every step of this. People that reach out to me and just say thank you, or I've gone through the same thing, and just giving other people the permission to share their stories and experiences is the whole reason why I did this. So that has been so enriching and beautiful and worth every part of this. But I guess that's why I was so upset on my birthday, when that one day that should have been about me wasn't. And I was working anyway, which was the beautiful thing. I love what I do. And I was teaching at Pineapple that evening, and that my class was just so incredible. And I was showered with just beautiful messages and things like that. But the showing up part from other people, that wasn't there. And I think, again, it's just a reminder of life and the process of it, and also what needs to change. And I think within that space of, that old wound coming to the surface, all of the old wounds came up and purged out, things that I thought that I'd dealt with, and feel like on the grand scheme of like 10 being the most painful and 1 being the least, everything felt a 10 again, things that I thought I'd done, like I said, and it was heavy, and I had to just cry it out. I cried more on my birthday than I have done in probably this whole year, and like I said, I'm now more vulnerable, so I'm crying a bit more regularly, and it was just heavy, and I felt sad for myself. I really did. And I sat in that, and I did do a meditation with my inner child, and I held her in that space. And it's all necessary. I don't know why right now, but I feel like, actually, I say I don't know why, I do know why. I said it at the beginning, where in order for people to see and hear me, I had to allow myself to be seen and heard in that vulnerable, hurt space. And that's definitely what's happened as a byproduct of me being so vulnerable. And that's why I share this all, because, when I was like hysterically crying on my birthday, it is that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen for anyone. And I feel like if one of my friends told me that was happening, I would be so devastated for them. And I was devastated for me. You know, it's taken me a few days to work through that myself, and I'd be kind to myself. And equally, the moon was in Scorpio, which me and Scorpio, we have beef anyway in that moon situation. Like, she goes right down to my soul and pulls it out again. And she did that. And I was like, sis, on my birthday, really? Come on. And it was. And I think obviously Venus retrograde, Mercury was about to go into retrograde, and it was just shadowy land. You know, it was shadowy regardless, but the fact it was my birthday, I think, just made it feel 10 times more heightened. But I was still disappointed in it. And what I know for sure is that once I'd let all the emotions go, you know, I'd accepted that I was upset and I was hurt and it was okay. And I started to move through it. And I was like, okay, what do I need next in this process? Because, you know, the old me would want super validation, and I'd need like red roses and flowers and chocolates and, you know, all the things. I'm just throwing out random things. I don't need those. But, you know, I would have wanted some big grand gesture to make up for why I was hurt. And I didn't need any of that. What I just wanted was validation in that space, just a little acknowledgement and accountability that my feelings were hurt, because I didn't get that at the time. And I think the next day I was working away, which was lovely and amazing, and a beautiful time. When I got back, I felt so much more grounded for it. And I talk about this quite a lot, about, you know, how spaces hold energy. So I think being in the space of, you know, the home environment, that was holding on, that was holding all of my emotion. So going away and coming back reset the tone. And obviously I'm constantly saging and, you know, lighting my incense and things like that to cleanse, like, energetically, but physically moving did me wonders. And then I was able to have a really honest conversation from a grounded space, and it actually, again, worked in my favor, because the accountability came from that space. And again, you know, when you grow and heal, it is quite hard for other people to do the same thing. And I think we have to have compassion for people in our lives that don't match that energy. And I think a lot of people in my life feel like they are, and they are, you know, they're doing their own journey and version of that. But I think we're all on our own paths and we can't compare. So I think ultimately, yeah, the end goal was that I wanted to, you know, feel more seen, heard, and validated always, because that's something that's been a childhood wound of mine. And from this tower moment, this hard time, this obstacle, I have, as a result, felt like that, felt more seen, heard, and understood. So ultimately, it's worked out as it should. But it was hard and heavy, you know, and I'm still in a process of working through certain situations, because, as I always say, I'm never fully healed. But I'm sharing all of this because I want other people to know that it is baby steps sometimes, you know, and we want to be in a space where it's a full transformation and you go from the cocoon into the butterfly and you break free. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like that obstacle I broke free from. But again, it's like what my mentor always says, and I will share this, about another level, another devil. It's definitely that situation. And I felt like this particular crumble was really chapter 31, making her announcement that she's leaving. You know, it was like, fine, if I'm going, I'm tearing everything down with me. And it was really that, and almost like a rebirth, you know, like I can imagine, like when your soul comes through the birth canal, and it's like, oh, okay, we're pushing through now, and it's hard and it's heavy, and we're going to get on the other side. But ultimately, there's a new life on the other side of that. And I really do feel like I'm hoping that that's what 32 is for me. And I trust that it will be, because I've put so much work into being the very best version of myself. And I do accept myself fully. And I know that right now, and everything that I am more than enough. And I'm showing up and I'm being vulnerable and open and loving and caring from this real, genuine place. And I think that's all it needs to be. You know, we don't need any more. We can keep meditating and doing all those things with this purpose. But ultimately, when you just sit in this and accept yourself 100% as you are, that is just the goal, right? In every level. And that's true peace and true happiness. And I think, yeah, life is always going to be filled with highs and lows, as I said at the start. And I think the more in love with yourself you become, and I mean that from a space of self-respect, self-acceptance, you almost forge a surfboard and you ride the wave, you know. And I think that's a real beautiful thing about life, and like building this resilience. Like the surfboard's the resilience, right? You know that no matter what, if it knocks you off your wave or whatever, you jump back on the board and you paddle out back to the vulnerable action and you take it. And that's in everything in life. And I think I always say no risk, no reward. But I do feel like that, because the alternative to the breakdowns, to the breakthroughs, is the mundane, stuck, low vibration. There's no highs and lows. It's just stagnant. And that's not the life that I chose for myself, or the life that I've worked so hard to create. So ultimately, it's all happened for a reason. And I know that, and even some beautiful friends of mine that are so loving, they're like, oh, but it's all happening for a reason. I'm like, I know. And it doesn't mean it hurts any less, or it doesn't mean it's any less painful, or brings up any less trauma that was before. And I think this is another important thing. I think we never measure trauma, never, never, never measure trauma. But equally, when you've been through trauma that's on a deep level of, childhood, that does take longer to overcome and process. And equally, it's a bit like grief, and I shared this in my stories recently and on my Instagram, is that this would have been the 15th year that my dad would have passed. And in that time, I feel like that was a really peak moment of this month, really, for me as well, was acknowledging like how much growth I've done in myself since then. And, acknowledging every part of me that I've been, that wounded, like unseen child, the angry teenager, to that toxic masculine 20-something-year-old, and then the 30-year-old that now is wise from it, and it's integrating all those parts of myself and accepting that. But it doesn't mean I miss my dad any less, and I know that his life here wouldn't have been any more, or it wouldn't have been less traumatic, it wouldn't have been less, the outcome would have always been the same ultimately, but it doesn't mean it hurts any less. And I think that's the same with overcoming and healing, is that, whether it's a partner that you've let go of, or someone's died, or you've just had to let go of people, doesn't hurt any less when it's so deep and so like enriched in your soul. For example, if you were abandoned as a child, and then you have a partner that keeps abandoning you, that's going to hurt 10 times more than someone that didn't have childhood wounds and is just getting abandoned. Now, equally, they're both painful, but the level of pain is deep rooted in the cellular and spiritual level. And that's why it feels so much deeper. And that's why healing, the journey isn't linear, because we go up and down, we ebb and flow, as I keep saying, but it's acknowledging all parts of that and accepting all parts of everything we are, and knowing it's part of the process. There isn't going to be a time where you don't feel pain. And if you don't feel pain, that is even more worrying, because that means you're numb. And I was in that for such a long space in my life. So now when the pain does come up, as horrible as it and as heavy as it feels, I allow it to do that. And I'm grateful for it, because I'm like, oh, I can feel now, So ultimately, August has been a very transformational month. We're just still coming out the other side of it now, but I feel like I'm leaving August so much more wiser. And I feel like this has really created again that solid foundation and that pathway for me to keep going, in what it is I'm doing, and enriches the why for me. And it always is sharing my experiences to help, make this world a better place. And, if it helps change someone's life, then I've done my job. And I think that's really, kind of how I guess 32 will look, is that I do think that although the seeds I've planted will flourish, and I'm really excited for that, because I think that's what's needed in this world right now. And the amount of people that have reached out to me on the back of the podcast and everything I'm doing, it just shows that this is needed. So I'm really excited for what's coming next. And I'm about to launch my academy, which I'm so excited about. And that's a 12-month container where you can start at any time, and you can join and go on that journey of real self-discovery and, really unpacking those wounds for yourself. I'll be available for 2 live calls a month. There's also going to be a dance class element added to it, and it'll be over a Zoom, and you can catch up in your free time. So you don't have to show yourself, and you would add in as much as you wanted to, or as much as you didn't. So if you didn't want to add and speak in anything, you don't have to. But if you do need that community and you need that togetherness right now, this space is for you. So I really do feel like this academy is going to change so many people's lives, and I'm really excited to share that. So I'm going to be launching that on the back of this, actually. So probably in the next few days after the podcast comes out, I will be, going live and speaking about it more. But I just feel like change has been in the air for a lot of people. And with the Lionsgate portal, the Venus retrograde, we're now Mercury retrograde, we've got 7 planets in retrograde. A lot is going to change over the next month. September, if you're listening, as I said, live, is going to be such a transformational time. So if you haven't had a rocky period yet, it will come. And when it does, I want it to embrace it with open arms, take it in, feel the emotions, allow them to move through yourself. And then, write it out, walk it out, dance it out, let it go out of your body. Because when we hold on to our expectation of what we think it should be, and I can say this wholeheartedly because that's what my shadow wound was, coming up to the surface was, I shouldn't have to feel like this shouldn't be like this. And I'm right, it shouldn't, but it is. And what can I do? I can hold on to the old version of what I wanted or expected for myself, or I can let all of it go, the expectation, the want I had, the desire I had for that thing, and trust that the universe is bringing me something better, because the universe only brings you what you want or something better, nothing else. It will never give you something more than that. And it's always in hindsight that we see how the dots always match up. So I hope that you can do that for yourself. And if you are stuck and you are looking for, gosh, how do I move through it? My journals are available on Etsy, and also Amazon. I've got like another worksheet section on there. But always, reach out. My 90-minute sessions are available if you just want that one-to-one care. And I have got long-term containers if you do need it. But ultimately, life is a journey. We embrace every part of it. And that's something that I celebrate always. And I definitely feel like my summer was almost a bit of a winter in terms of my inner transformation. But that just means that, the spring and the summer will flourish again. And I use the seasons quite a lot. So I thought it was important to add that in again. But yes, always remember that you are brave, strong, powerful, enough, and worthy of everything that you want. And always trust that that is exactly where you're heading. So if it feels hard right now, I'm with you. I feel you. I see you. You are loved, valued, appreciated. And I want you to remember that for yourself. And, if that feels heavy and hard to receive, I want you to write a love letter to yourself and really accept that in, because when you love yourself fully, you allow the world to love you too. And I think we get so caught up in why things had to be hard and we've gone the hard way through it. But I promise you that from loving myself fully, I've been able to receive the love that I deserve. And I know that from that, everything I'm doing is flourishing for it, even when I can't see it and even when it feels hard. The weed can grow, that the flowers of weeds can grow through the cracks of the pavements, so can like the light get into every element of the hardships that you're facing. So I'm sending you so much love and light. I'm looking forward to season 2 and sharing all of my exciting, interesting guests. Like I said, people that I've never spoken to before or wouldn't consider in the past that are coming through on this. So it's going to be a very different type of episodes, but I'm really excited to share with you. So yes, let's roll on autumn and let's hope it's the best autumn we could ask for. But ultimately, everything happens as it's supposed to. There's no mistakes. Sending you so much love and light always. And I will see you really soon.